Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the UBC Learning Circle hosted by the Center for Excellence in Indigenous Health. We're very excited today to welcome Elder Roberta Price into the circle today to chat with us about her work as an elder in urban Indigenous communities, both kind of before and during this current pandemic. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge that I'm zooming in from the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Hunkaminam-speaking Musqueam people. I would also like to acknowledge the First Nations Health Authority for generously funding the UBC Learning Circle. So before we jump into it today, the topics we cover can sometimes be sensitive or emotionally triggering. If something of that nature comes up for you today, please make sure that you're looking after yourself. If at any point you feel that you need to talk to an elder or a friend, a counselor, a family member, please don't hesitate to reach out to that support network. On to introductions. In case you didn't know, my name is Cole. I'm from the Cowichan First Nation. I'll be facilitating the discussion today, which especially today means I'm just going to be hanging out with Elder and learning, same as everybody else. Other Learning Circle team members in the room today, digital room today, are Cynthia, our production coordinator, and Winona, our assistant coordinator. If you feel so inclined, please introduce yourself in the chat box to each other and to Elder. So I think I did that in record time, under a minute or so, and I'm going to turn the mic over to Elder Roberta Price. Can you maybe start with your introduction?
Thank you, Cole, and I hope everyone can hear me okay. I just want to share with everyone that I have in my hand my cedar boughs and my eagle feather wand, and I have on my head a cedar headband that was gifted to me by one of my sister elders. I was in a rush this morning, so I did not put on my cedar necklace that I usually always put on, and some of our teachings from our elders are that when you put on parts of your regalia or your full regalia, you are giving an indication to the ancestors and the creator that you're going to share some good words and share in ceremony. So I'll just start us off in a good way, and thank you so much, everyone. Haichka Siem Siaya. Greetings and welcome, everyone. As Co-Salish Matriarch and Elder, I wish to give a very warm thank you to all my relatives on the Musqueam, the Squamish, and the Tsleil-Waututh for welcoming me to live in the unceded lands of my relatives, Musqueam and Richmond, for 40 years now. As Co-Salish Matriarch and Elder, I wish to give each and every one a very warm welcome who live, work, and play, give and receive service, teach and learn on our unceded, ancestral, and occupied lands, my relatives, Musqueam, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh. Ceremony guided each and every day and each and every step of our days, as taught to me by my elders. I have in my hand these cedar boughs. As taught to me by my elders, we would pick those cedar boughs each and every morning. We would go into the cold, cold water. What we are doing is ceremony. We are brushing every single part of our bodies off with those cedar boughs. What we are doing is a cleansing. We are pushing all the negative and evil energy off of us so we could go about our day in a good and respectful way. I've been going into classrooms in the Lower Mainland here now for 36 years. I'll share the teaching with you that I share with those little ones right from the preschool age up into university about the meaning of negative energy. And I'll ask each and every one of you to participate with Elder Roberta this morning. Raise your hand, folks, if you've ever felt a cranky moment in your life. Feel free to raise two. That, my dear friends, is the meaning of negative energy. Can you do things really well when you are cranky? Maybe extra hard, maybe extra fast, but not really well. So brushing all that negative energy off of you in that cold, cold water will help you go about your day in a good and respectful way. Part of the power of the sacred cedar boughs when you use them in ceremony will put a protective force around you that will constantly deflect that negative energy off of you as you go about your day. Other important ceremony as taught to me by my elders is the ceremony of introduction. To share your name, your nation, your family, and if it isn't your traditional territory, to always respectfully ask permission to be on that territory. Always gracefully wait for that permission to be granted. I'll share that with you now. Good morning, everyone. My name is Roberta Price. My heritage is I am Coast Salish. I am Snuneymuxw on my dad's side. That's where I was born. When they came to our lands, they couldn't say our names. They couldn't say our language. So perhaps when they couldn't say Snuneymuxw, they called it Nanaimo. So I was born there right on the #1 reserve on the waterfront in Nanaimo. And I am Cowichan on my mother's side. The dialect of the language of my people is taught to me by my elders on this side of the water, way up there in the Stalo territory, my beautiful Chilliwack elders. The dialect of the language of my people is called the Halkamulan language. I knew and understood and spoke my language fluently until I was 6 years old. Beyond 6 years old, I was not allowed to have anything to do with my language, my heritage, and my culture. And I was actually tortured about that. I have spent well over 40 years reclaiming back my identity, searching out for my family, and especially searching for my mother. Very, very pleased and proud to finally find my mom when I became a grandmom in 1994. I was able to spend 8 years with my mother before she passed away. My mother affirming all the teachings of the elders that I work with leading up to my mom. My mom saying, yep, that's the way we do that ceremony. Yep, that's the way we do that cultural teaching. And I share with each and every one of you this morning that due to those horrific experiences that happened from age 6 onwards, for many, many, many years, I used the contemporary Western method of healing, counseling in psychiatry and psychology. But I really felt the greatest part of my healing journey came. I called this dear, beautiful lady a friend today. My dear friend, Elder Flo, was my boss in the early 80s. My dear friend, Elder Flo, spent her entire life in the residential school. My dear friend, Elder Flo, was also a helper to the elders. She knew what I needed. She brought me to those elders. Those elders, they took me under their wing. They taught me. They guided me. They prayed for me. But mostly importantly of all, what those elders did for me is they loved me. They loved me unconditionally. Unconditionally. Because when you are ripped away from your family, age 3, 4, 5, 6, and older, what you are missing is that unconditional love you receive from your parents, your grandparents, your family, your nation, your community. That unconditional love. They gave it to me lovingly. They gave it to me openly. Never ever did I dream for one moment at that time that close to 40 years later, I would be walking in those elders' footsteps today, sharing that same unconditional love with so many, in so many communities. We still need it. We still need it very, very much. I hold my hands up in thanks to those elders, give thanks in my prayers every morning and every night. Really, really grateful I had the grace and the blessing to be led and taught and mentored by close to 30 elders in my journey from all the 4 directions that lived right here in BC. I'm ever, ever grateful. I want to share some teachings of those beautiful elders that I started out with and work with many, many years. And then I'll call you out to join me in those teachings to start us off in a good way with a blessing and a prayer. I worked with our beautiful mentor teacher, Elder Vince Stogan from Musqueam, and Elder Bob George from the Tsleil-Waututh, those two beautiful elders, always side by side in the journey, always sharing unconditional love and teaching. I'll honor Elder Vince and his teachings this morning as I honor both of those and all the beautiful elders. Elder Vince teaches us that whenever we come together, we must always share a blessing and a prayer for our time together. And normally we are in a very wide virtual circle here today. So let's imagine that we're in that wide virtual circle together. Imagine that we're all standing together. And in safer times, we have done this, listened to Elder Vince's teachings, and we can still kind of model that teaching a little bit. So Elder Vince teaches us when we're in that circle, what we would normally do in safe times is we would join hands. And what we would do is we'd put our left palm up to our person on our left. That left palm up is to Father Sky. We put our right palm down to our person on our right. That right palm down is to Mother Earth. Elder Vince's other teachings are that our left palm up is to all of our ancestors we're calling upon and calling down in the prayers to be amongst us as we work, play, interact. Our right palm down is to our children, our grandchildren, and our great-grandchildren. When we join hands in that way, we're keeping those connections very, very strong. So I'll start us off in a good way, and wherever you are, if you want to join in with Elder Vince's honorable teachings, you can do this. You can put your left palm up and your right palm down, and I'll share a blessing and a prayer for our beautiful time here today. Thank you so much. Haichka, Haichka Osiam, Osiam. We give you many, many thanks, Creator, for bringing us all together in this very, very wide virtual circle in such a warm and respectful way. We ask, Creator, that you bring your blessings down upon our minds, our hearts, our bodies, our spirits. So when we think our thoughts, they are good, positive, and respectful. When we speak our words, they are good, positive, and respectful. And we call upon you, Creator, to bless the food and drink we put in to nourish our bodies on our journeys to wellness and strength. And we give you thanks each and every day, Creator, for bringing your special blessings of protection down upon all the beautiful people who have worked so very, very hard during this pandemic for all illnesses and especially for our ongoing opioid crisis. Continue to bless and protect them and their families, Creator. And we kindly and respectfully ask you, Creator, to wrap each and every one of us in your warm blanket of protection as we journey through this part of the journey of our lives together. Help us all to keep safe in our travels, both near and far, Creator. And we always give you many, many thanks, Creator, as we ask you to bring all of your blessings down upon all the ones that are hurting, all the ones that are hungry, and all the ones without homes, and especially, Creator, all the ones that are hurting. Haichka, Haichka Osiam, Osiam. Thank you so much, everyone. Very, very honored and pleased. I have to give honor and thanks to my family. I am a mother of 4 and a grandma to 9. But as relationships go, and things move on, I think there's many more grandchildren that have joined the family. So always giving thanks to my family and their unconditional love and support to me as I continue to carry on the work during these times. Haichka, Haichka Osiam. Thank you. And as I teach on many times in Zoom, share the teachings that wherever you are, whatever traditional territory that you're in, take time during your week, take time during your month, take time during your day to reflect and give honor and thanks to all the ancestors of the lands on which you live, work, and play, teach, and learn on. Haichka, Haichka Osiam. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
It was beautiful, Elder. Thank you so much for opening us in that way. I really appreciate it. So I don't know if you can see the chat, Elder, but it's just it's been blowing up with people, you know, saying good morning, wishing you well, introducing themselves. So it seems like we have a very engaged audience today. I'd like to start us off with a question, a very basic one for those people that maybe haven't known you for very long or just kind of getting to know you. Can you explain to me and to the audience, perhaps, what was the nature of the sort of work that you did before before the pandemic as an elder in urban Indigenous communities? What did that look like on a day-to-day basis?
Pretty hectic and frantic, going from sometimes to 5 places in the Lower Mainland. As I shared, you know, I've been going into schools, so going into the various school districts as well. Really, really sometimes feeling a little bit stretched to make those times and going places. And it was really quite a body, mind, spirit shock when the shutdown actually happened. So it was like, you know, going full speed, and then all of a sudden you come to a dead stop. And it was like a real shock to me. And so probably about 8 days of complete shutdown, of no contact or anything. And then people figured out about Zoom and virtual meetings and everything. So kind of got into that by the end of the first month there. And so being involved in many Zoom meetings for all of the work. And actually, I was really surprised because had to fill the tank up every 5 days for the vehicle. And then you didn't have to get gas because you're being on the virtual meetings. And I still really can't do it cold. Like I cannot, I'm normally a very good multitasker, but I've warm apologies to everyone because I can't kind of look at the screen, talk, and then look at the chat too. I have to concentrate on the chat, so it takes me away from the screen. So I'll depend upon you, Cole, to share the chat items with me. And I finally learned on one of our Zoom meetings about 4.5 months into Zoom about how to actually send a chat. Someone took the time on one of our chat meetings to show Elder Roberta actually how to send a chat. So yes, it was very, very busy traveling times for me, but now I travel virtually. It was very, very difficult because I've been going into the hospitals now for 8 years. And all the hospitals in the Lower Mainland, it was so hard not to be able to go in and be with the patient or the patient's family to give that so much needed support. So that was very hurtful on my heart. But then we also started virtual meetings with the patient liaisons and patient navigators within the hospitals. Setting up so that sometimes I could actually, we could be on Zoom together with the patient. So that was really, really helpful. And continuing to share my ceremonies, either over the phone or on the Zoom with the patient and the families. It felt a little tiny awkward at first, but then the ceremony and the healing is so very, very important for our people that it became, after a while you got used to it, and it became natural because they're receiving that healing through the virtual circle in a good way. So that's really, really important to continue to share that. OCM, thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Elder. It sounds like you know, which I would have expected for someone like you, but it sounds like you only had about a week or so off, and then we were into a digital version of your life before. So very grateful for you carving out some time to be with us today. One thing that you mentioned there that I wanted to kind of bring up and ask you about, um, was that 8 days for you and for other elders, you know, that maybe don't have access to digital tools and digital networks and stuff, is that feeling of isolation. You know, when I reflect on spending time with elders and you know, engaging in ceremony with elder, it's beautiful because they give you know, you give your knowledge and your time and your experience and wisdom to everybody in the circle, but in a reciprocal way, as I think that most relationships are. You know, you're also being fed that engagement with a younger generation and a younger audience, and that's always beneficial both to the heart and to the mind. So one of the first things that happened to that I thought of when all this started was, what about those elders that can't engage at all now, you know, that don't have those digital tools? What about that feeling of isolation? I was wondering if you could chat about what that might have felt like and offer any words there.
Well, my heart goes out to our elders, especially the ones that live alone. And one of my roles here is at Vancouver Coastal Health. I lead the Circle of Elders. I've been interviewing elders for the last almost close to 5 years now. And bringing them into our circle. And so I'm so glad that Vancouver Coastal Health supported our team here at Aboriginal Wellness Program, supported us elders. We would meet on the last Wednesday of every month. And when all our beautiful brother and sister elders are well, we have 30 elders in our circle here at the end of the month. So much joy and laughter and you know, community, sense of strong community, and really kind of like a lifeline to a lot of our elders, especially the ones that live alone. And so it was very, it really hurt my heart to know some of those elders that we knew did live alone and family way across the country. And so what I did as a lead elder is I reached out to my mostly sister elders that lived alone, and I called them every two or 3 days, and I set up times, and then we'd text, and I'd set up times when it would be okay. And I did that every 2 or 3 days to make sure that, you know, it's so difficult to, I can't actually, I can't actually even imagine being alone myself, you know, always having extended family. And my household can't follow Dr. Bonnie Henry's rules about the safe sex because it's almost double that. So my heart really went out to our beautiful sister elders, especially that couldn't have family, couldn't go visit family, or family is really way out of reach, you know, across the nation and perhaps even into the States. So really making a strong effort and commitment on myself to reach out and speak every 2 or 3 days, and also text and email. And Vancouver Coastal Health Aboriginal Wellness Program supported us elders. And like you shared, Cole, not all of us have that technology, or you know, have the data or anything to do Zoom calls. So we decided that we would continue to meet at the end of every month by telephone, because at least telephone, all of our elders had access to telephone. So and then what the decision that we all had consensus on is that we would take a break at summer and at Christmas, like from our elder circle. We decided to meet through the summer, which I felt was a very strong lifeline to some of our elders that are shut in and that still cannot see anyone. So, and again, that's a very joyous time for us. Still, that humor is shared, and all the experience are shared, and we hold each other up in a really good way. So, OCM, thank you so much.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear that the circles continued through the summer. You know, there are a few others I know personally that I was a little bit concerned about. So I'm glad that they've been able to connect with that community. It's really good. I have a few other questions, but we've had more than enough come in through our audience. So I'm going to pivot and ask a few of their questions, if you don't mind. One of the first one from Joanne who's had the privilege of being in the wonderful Coast Salish territories for 30 years, asked a very simple question, or complex. Uh, how can we respectfully stand up for lands and waters while in your territory? So, in your opinion, Elder, how can all of us respectfully stand up for the land and waters while in Coast Salish territories?
Well, some of our beautiful relatives from the Tsleil-Waututh have been standing up for the waters and against all the stuff they're doing in the waters over there. Um, I would, if you're capable, I would support those initiatives in whatever way, whether it is a presence, like in these times, it'd be Zoom, on any meetings that are called, to call out to the public to share. So being supportive of that, if you're financially able to support, donate to causes that would support the land and the water and the protection of it, the preservation of it. And if you're a person that shares prayers and blessings in your own way, whatever way that you have been brought up with or taught, to actually send up those blessings and the prayers for the land and the water to be to stand up against those industrial forces that are really harming the land and water. OCM. I hope that answers in a good way.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I think the biggest thing there is just getting involved and connecting with your local Indigenous communities, whatever that looks like, to support that ongoing fight, because it is a fight for sure. Okay, so pivoting back to kind of a two-part question. One being, how has your role changed, right? And we've kind of already talked about that, but the second part and the most important part for me is, what are some of the difficulties that you've encountered doing your work and performing ceremony now over distance and over Zoom? Like, what are the hardest parts about doing that, in your opinion?
The hardest part, Cole and everyone, is not being able to be in person with the person that you've been called upon to take care of in a good way, mostly emotionally and spiritually, because it's so very, very important to be in the same presence as that person. And then just putting all of those kind of doubts and feelings away, like don't think about it, and think positively about it, about how you can connect emotionally and spiritually with the people that you're called upon to support and hold up. So I had to use some of my own guidance upon myself during that. Like, it was a short shutdown for me, but it was very, very hard to accept. Like, being so busy and so present in so many different areas in the Lower Mainland was very, very difficult on my mind. And so using some of my own ways of knowing and doing upon myself in order to pick myself up to continue to be present for everyone else. So just putting aside those thoughts of like regret and sadness that we can't be present together in person, but we're still together. So being fully present over Zoom or over the teleconference is so very, very important. So putting everything else out of your thoughts and concentrating on the person or people that you are visiting by telephone or on Zoom. OCM.
Yeah. Thank you, Elder. Absolutely. I think you touched on a really good point there. If you're performing ceremony or just connecting over Zoom or the telephone, it's a lot easier to disconnect. And I feel like, particularly when you're performing ceremony, that connection between the two, that's almost the most important piece of it, right? Is that connection where you're reaching out and acknowledging each other in that way. So, Yeah, absolutely. I know before the pandemic, I was guilty of being on the phone and doing laundry or cooking lunch or doing whatever, you're just kind of listening and chatting, but it's different now, right? You have to, because it's the only way to connect, you have to be more present. Absolutely. Um, okay. Okay, so thank you very much for that answer, Elder. So one of the other, so the next question that we have is okay. We've got so many. Sorry. One question came in from Judy Cathers, which was more targeted towards your work now, Elder. Um, she says, "Good morning. I'm so thankful for this opportunity to be with Elder Roberta Price." And she was wondering if she's available, if you, Elder, are available to virtually meet with students in school, if you're still continuing that work, and if so, where we can find your contact information. And I want to kind of take a step back for a second, if you don't mind me just kind of going on a bit of a tangent here, because there was another question that came in as well that was focused on how to a respectful way to reach out to local First Nations, Indigenous communities, to invite them into these digital spaces to continue to perform ceremony, either for a school or for what have you, right? Because before the pandemic, you would get to know somebody in person. You'd go visit the community. You'd build that relationship and that connection, and then when it was appropriate, bring the elder, have you into that space. But it's different now, in a digital space. So, what would be your words, Elder, in terms of, for those of us that are looking to begin building a relationship with local First Nations or Indigenous people, that could then lead them to be invited into these more kind of secular digital spaces?
Well, for the, the school question, yes, I'm really quite involved by Zoom, with having Zoom meetings either one-to-one with the teacher or support person that's with the student or students. So we meet by Zoom, and also they have created in the districts the Zoom meetings for the parent meetings, and that I'm quite involved in. And for people who are interested in other elders, I am the point of contact as the lead elder in residence for Vancouver Coastal Health, and leading all my beautiful brother and sister elders. So if you need an elder from a certain nation, um, you can contact me here at Vancouver Coastal Health through Priscilla or one of our team members at Aboriginal Wellness, and I can support you in. And often it's so very, very important, like when you have a family that is in need of connecting with an elder for whatever reason, that it be the elder from the same heritage or nation as them, and I'm able to do that. I've done that quite a few times throughout the 6 districts I'm involved in the schools. And in regards to if you are connected to any of our beautiful brother, sister elders, that's the way to make the connection to the nation. Like going through a person that you already know, and then asking them to point you in the right direction on how to connect with that nation and how to engage with that nation. And then, of course, our nations probably are sometimes overwhelmed with requests, so that comes through their main nation's office. So that might be an avenue. But I always say it's so important, like, to go through people who kind of know the steps of how to guide you, to connect you to that nation and the elders of that nation. I really feel that's the probably more comfortable for us elders, when it's someone we know that someone else is calling upon us to make a special request or ask a question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the other thing too, as elders, right, is the importance of having that mutual person that you can depend on and that in these situations, right? Because at the end of the day, in my opinion, our elders are our most treasured resource. They're so critical to the health of our communities that um, that just having them, just going and doing something without any guarantee, of the protocols being followed, that the elders can be safe, both in an emotional and physical manner, and taken care of. Um, it's really difficult, So I think that making sure that you have that mutual connection, so that the elder knows that they're going to be taken care of when they're there, and that the protocols are going to be followed. That's really, really important. So thanks, Elder. I appreciate your response. And that kind of leads me directly into another question from Darlene Johnson, who asks, in your experience so far, how has protocol been handled when the organization wants elder involvement in these, digital gatherings? How has that changed?
I think it's, and then I've, in some of the Zoom meetings I've guided of how we start off, that we start off with a welcome and we start off with a blessing. But most people who are already engaged with having elders do territorial welcome and blessing and everything are set up for that. So they give a portion of that time for that at the beginning of all the Zoom meetings that I'm involved in. And then on some of the Zoom meetings I've been involved in where there hasn't been strong engagement with elders, I just share the teachings in a very gentle way and bring them around to say, this is how we start off the meetings. And they're very graceful and responsive, and say, okay, next time we do that, this is how we'll start. So just always like how teachings were shared with me in a very gentle, kind way, I continue to share that, putting it forward in the way that it was put to me by all my beautiful elders. OCM.
Thank you always for setting an example for me, Elder. I know sometimes I can get a little excited and chat a lot, so I appreciate your answer there. I'll reflect on it moving forward for sure.
And just one more thing, Cole,
yeah.
about that, when we've been welcomed, whether it's a brand new Zoom meeting or anything, many of the people have sent the gifts of the sacred plants by FedEx and Purelator. And even from as far away, I'm involved with a national committee from as far away as Saskatchewan. The FedEx comes with the tobacco in the cloth, and then other kind of like, so if you've never approached an elder, it is just kindness and polite to have a gift of the sacred plant, just like the cedar boughs, or if you can come across some sage, sweetgrass, tobacco, natural tobacco, hopefully, that you offer this in a cloth to the elder when you're going to ask the elder to become engaged with you or to share teachings with you. It's really, really important to offer. And then some of our elders teach us that, say, Cole, you came to me, you didn't know me, and you brought tobacco and cloth and you offered it to me, but I didn't take it. And I wouldn't not take it without, not abruptly or anything, but I would share when we accept those gifts. When we accept those gifts, it means we're going to commit to do the work. And when we don't accept them, we'll share why, and we'll recommend, I'll reach out to this elder and you save that gift for this elder that I know that can do the work for you or engage with you. OCM, thank you.
Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you. That's also a really good point, regarding gifting and all that sort of stuff, because all that has changed so much over this time. So I appreciate you taking the time to touch base on those protocols, Elder. Thank you. So we have honestly just a question or just a comment that I want to read out, so that you get it, Elder. Thanks, Elder Price. My name is Tonka. I'm 11 years old. I'm learning from home this year. I've been learning a lot about First Nations in my new Under the Sun series at my DL school. I'm glad I could watch and listen to your story today. I wish I could come in person. And I say that to you just because there's another comment here about someone having their they're young child, I think about 3 years old, coming and listening in on our ceremony. And I just wanted to take a moment to highlight kind of the benefit of this over distance, this digital situation, is that we can have, um, we can have people participate in the circle from all sorts of different spaces and ages, and all kind of come into the space in a good way to listen and to learn. So I just wanted to highlight that for you, because I thought that you would enjoy it.
Aichka, as a grandma, I'm very, very happy to have people of all ages on our Zoom connection here. So welcome to the beautiful little ones.
Okay, so our next question, two-part question again, kind of pivoting. First part being, what does being an elder mean to you? Elder, like both kind of before and during the pandemic, what does that role mean to you? And the second part, coming from Mark, who's a little bit confused, how are elders designated? Like, how does one become an elder within their community?
Well, I want to share that it is before, like, as my older brother, Elder Eugene Harry, speaks of, that it was because we were interrupted. And when I went to him for support, when I was feeling feeling a little bit overwhelmed and down and not fully confident in my role as elder. And my brother shared that, before that interruption is what we call the laws and the policies and the Indian Act. That before that interruption, we would have been known of at birth. We've been known of as a toddler. We would have been mentored, we would have been nurtured, we would have been led and guided by the elders and the knowledge keepers of our nation, and guided and nurtured and protected in a way, because we're going to be doing the work. And so that really lifted me up a lot. And what I have learned, it is your elders or members of the community that designate you in your role as the elder, because we cannot go back to the past where we would have nurtured that from and guided and shared that from birth or from early childhood. So it is like, as some of my elders have taught me, that if somebody walks up and they're strangers, and then they just say, if I walk up to you, Cole, and say, oh, Cole, by the way, do you know that I'm an elder? That is not an elder, my elders have taught me. It is the community and the elders who have called upon you and witnessed you about that role that you will become. And so I started to be called by community in 2009, 2010, and I felt I should have been with my mother and my grandmother and perhaps my great grandmother. I best have been done that. So I felt very awkward. I felt very resistant. And so I went to my elder, one of my beautiful women elders, matriarchs, Elder Rose Point from Musqueam, who had been my elder for about 20 years. And I shared with Elder Rose, I said, I can't do this, Elder Rose. I should have been with my mom. I should have been with my grandmom. I should have been led into this. I can't do this. And Elder Rose sat there for a long, long time. And then she said to me, Roberta, when you have been called, it is your duty to answer. You must go now, Roberta, you must go. And I thanked her through my tears of emotion. And still feeling that inadequacy, I went to one of my other elders, a male, and I shared the same thing. I said, I can't do this. I should have been with my mom and my grandmom. I should have been led into this by my ancestors. And this beautiful elder says to me, after a long period of silence again, says, Roberta, when you are called, it is your duty to answer, Roberta. It is your responsibility now. You must go out there, Roberta. You must go. Through my tears of thanks and gratefulness, I really wanted to say, did Elder Rose call you? But you know what? All of us elders, we have that same ways of knowing, and it is you'll experience this in your lifetime, everyone who's witnessing, that if you come to me as an elder and you ask a question, you go to another either sister or brother elder, you ask the same question, we'll give close to the same answer. And it has happened quite a few times. And so very reluctantly stepping into that role and feeling that real, at first, a heavy responsibility. And again, later on, like after being called by community and getting involved in certain events, my brother was involved with a research project in the downtown core of Vancouver, and called upon me and another sister elder, Elder Doris Paul from the Squamish Nation, to work in that pilot. And I was still feeling a little not confident, inadequate, and my brother Gene introduced me and my colleague sister Elder Doris Paul to all of this team of research, of doctors, nurses, research folks, and the staff. And my brother came behind me and he said, you know, my sister Roberta here isn't an elder because she was just dropped out of heaven and that's it. He said, my sister Roberta here is an elder because she's been through many experiences and she lived. He said, only the people who've gone through the experience can truly comfort the people who are going through it today. That's why my sister here, Roberta, is an elder. And I kind of sat up straighter and I thought, oh, wow, my brother's saying this about me. I should step up a little bit. And you know, not too long after that, I was called into the hospitals and to do the work in the hospitals. And let me tell you, Cole and everyone, if you'd have said in 2008, this is what I'd be doing, I'd say, no way, I will not do that. And, you know, having been a patient that I could, if you compiled it all together, years I spent in hospital beds. And, you know, I really feel now as I look back that I have fulfilled my own wish, because every time I was in that bed, sometimes for 4 or 6 months at a time, I would always look out. I would always look out and look for my people. Where is my people? Where is my people? Not one person was of Indigenous heritage that would help me in those times, especially as a little child. And so I think I fulfilled my wish in that regard. And I really feel that it's very spiritual, because when I go into the hospital, pre-COVID, I would walk to the room, I'd stand at the door, ask permission to come into the room. People, once we got to know each other, people would say, oh, Elder Roberta, when you were at the door, I was sure that you were my grandma. I was sure you were my auntie. I was sure you were my sister. And so I really feel that spirituality gives people a flash of that, so that they know, you know, that the relationship is going to be okay and it's going to be safe. So coming to that reluctantly, and now then having done this, I would say BC Women's, about 3,400 families I've supported there, and with Vancouver Coastal Health and Providence Healthcare, probably about 2,300, 2,400 families I've supported at St. Paul's, Mount St. Joseph's, VGH, the Lionsgate, the Hope Center, and other health centers within Vancouver Coastal Health Territory. So now I feel like, yeah, I've been doing this my entire life. So I guess getting to that stage of yes, I can do the work. Yes, I'm confident, which leads me to a teaching, Cole and everyone, that I have shared many times now in opening up the schools around identity. Like, remember I said I spent well over 40 years reclaiming my identity and my family. And so I'll share what I share out there, and I even share it in the little kindergarten classes, in the circle, and in various ways, and in gentle ways. And so I'll share that teaching with each and every one of you this morning, and you may have heard it from me before. So what I do when I share the welcome and the blessing for openings of all the various schools that I'm welcome to open, or in the classroom, what I share with everyone, I say to everyone, and I'm saying it to each of you now today, look at Elder Roberta. Look at Elder Roberta. Do you think anyone pushes Elder Roberta around today? Let them try. And I share that when you are grounded in your identity and who you are in your family, who your family is in history, your spirit is very, very strong. So I say this because I have had the experience that I've been called as elder since 2012 into now up to my 20th institution, to bring that balance back within the institution when there's arguments, when there's fighting. So I go into those institutions, and why I share that teaching is what I've noticed. When I've heard hundreds and hundreds of stories now, because that's what us elders do. We listen to your experience, we listen to your story, we guide you through that to a place where you can start healing or start doing work. And so listening to all of those stories, what I have noticed, the people who are not grounded in their identity and who they are often mistakenly ground themselves in something else. That something else that I have noticed is academia. So people who have not grounded themselves in their identity and who they are often mistakenly ground themselves in academia. And they take that academia into the workplace and they use it as a weapon and not as a gift they work very, very hard to earn. I know from where I speak, 8 years of listening, 8 years of guiding to bring it in. And when I bring everybody into a circle, I share with them, I don't come in here to read your CV and your resume. I come in here to read your heart and spirit. And some of our people, both Indigenous and non-Indigenous, do like I did when my brother spoke, sit up a little bit straighter. Oh, so I gently share with everybody, if you haven't worked on your identity, who your family is, and I've worked with many, many people where the experiences haven't been great, parents, grandparents, and even great-grandparents, I say, and when it's our Indigenous people, I say, go back there in the generations, go back 3 or 4 generations, even 5 generations, go back that far. Because before contact, we were a strong and resilient and thriving peoples. Go back and reclaim that, and it'll help you on your healing journey. So that's very, very important about knowing. And it's okay that many, many of our people don't know. Like I said, 40 years reclaiming back an identity that was stripped and beaten out of me. Very, very important to support people who don't know who they are, who don't know who their parents or grandparents and great-grandparents. Support and help and find out in a gentle way to help them find out, because when they go back in those generations, they will know the strength of who they are and why their spirit is strong today. Haichka, Haichka OCM. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Elder, for that response. It's beautiful. I'm sorry, I'm caught a little bit flat. I was reflecting on your words there. Thank you. I want to be cognizant of the time. I know, as I said before, we booked an hour and a half in our schedule, but I wanted to check in. We're about an hour. How are you feeling, Elder? Do you feel like you're good to continue, or do you want to kind of slow it down a little bit, drink some tea and relax?
I'm pretty good, Cole, and you could go into the chat, and if other people have some questions or queries, I'm really quite open for that. But just take a little bit of water.
All right, so we'll take a look for another question here. So the next couple questions here that I wanted to ask is really focused on this doing this work and supporting each other and providing for one another in this kind of virtual age that we're in the pandemic now. And as we all know, it's a pandemic, and there have been losses. Many people have lost people, either directly through the pandemic or just naturally losing people for other reasons. And I think I bring this up because in a different time, in a safer time, as you put it, Elder, we would get together, we would celebrate, and we would support one another directly during those difficult times. But particularly, I believe it was just this past weekend where even celebrations of life, those sorts of ceremonies are limited to the number of people that can attend. So the question is, how can we look to ground ourselves? What sort of grounding practice can we use to cope with loss during this really difficult time where we can't connect and do ceremony in person? What are your words of support for those people?
Well, I really feel that that we cannot connect in person for the safety, and especially of our elders and our old people, or people who health is compromised in whatever way that is very, very dangerous, that we cannot connect. But what we do is we keep those lines of communication open, whether it's by text, by phone, by computer, but we speak to each other, because I feel like even though we're isolated, if we don't reach out, and if you know somebody that may go to even more isolation, reach out to them in a really good way and connect up. Keep the lines of communication very, very open, because when we're going through grief and mourning and loss, our optimism sometimes just takes a head dive way down, and we may think of things and have those fears come upon us even bigger. And if we keep it to ourselves, it's not healthy. So reaching out by whatever ways of communication that can happen is very, very important, especially during these times of many losses. And one of the communities where I'm connected with in some other work I've done in past years had so many losses that it was the matriarchs that were really missing the members of their family that were lost to both COVID and the opioid crisis. And what I ended up doing, and what we're planning on, is leading the healing circle on a weekend over Zoom with the matriarchs, and made that connection. And just even having a conversation and being able to talk about the sadness and even the anger that our community members feel, and just meeting and having that connection is really, really helpful. So we're going to continue throughout this time, and I know it's gotten worse for that community. So I know that the matriarchs that reached out will actually welcome even more people. So, and it was the grandmas, but they also welcomed a couple of their granddaughters that were present on there, and it was really helpful to them because they had experienced loss of friends and other close family members as well. So keeping the lines of communication open, reaching out to those folks that you know won't reach out themselves, because we know that we don't want to drag anybody down. We don't want to make anybody feel bad. So we kind of further isolate ourselves. So um, for those of us who are like that, that we really, really want to be independent, kind of let that bit go. Let that bit go and open up your mind and your heart and your spirit to communicating with your loved ones who are really worried about you and who really love you very much. So just let it go and keep the communication going and open. OCM. I hope that helps. OCM.
I'm sure that it does. It certainly helps me, Elder. Thank you. The only other thing I would add there is that if you have ceremony that you're aware of, that you know that you can do yourself, small or large, making sure that you're practicing that when you need it. It's important to take the time out of your day. I know I'm very blessed and privileged to work at the Center for Excellence in Indigenous Health. So I've been given a lot of space to do that ceremonial work on my own when I need it. Particularly, it's a different age now, right? And I'm sure, Elder, you can attest to the fact that it's not less tiring to be in front of a camera for 8 hours a day. It's just a different kind of work, So making sure that you're taking time for yourself to avoid burnout, practice your ceremony, make sure that your boundaries are strong in that way, and we'll kind of all pull through this time together. I heard just a couple days ago that there was a vaccine on the way, so I'm very excited and hopeful that that we'll all be able to see each other in person again soon. My other question, and this is a personal one for me, Elder, and I'm just going to kind of leverage my spot here and see if I can get some guidance from you, is territorial acknowledgments and other introductions in an online space. My work is online and has been for a long time. And so I always want to kind of take a moment to check in with my elders and the knowledge keepers that I know to see how they feel about the way that I've been doing it or the way that we've been going about it. Particularly now that every event is virtual, we're receiving a lot more questions about how do we acknowledge territory in an online space? How does that work when we're not all sharing one space on a territory? Do you have any words or any experience or wisdom to offer as folks kind of tackle that subject?
Thank you, Cole. So always like in my introduction, I say the ceremony of introduction, just share your name, your nation, your family, and always ask permission. I would again guide people to say who they are and to acknowledge the traditional territory that they live, work, and play on. So we're all in this virtual circle, and we might even be across the nation this morning. So I always share this in a humorous way of my teachings of my beautiful brother and sister elders from the interior, Elder Eric Mitchell and Elder Chris Marchand, the beautiful couple who share Indigenous cultural safety training. Elder Eric always says with a smile and a chuckle, if you don't know the traditional territory of where you live, work, and play on, Grandpa Google is a very good friend. So you can just go on Google and check out the ancestors of the land in which you live, work, and play on. And then I'm not sure, Cole, I think there's a First Nations language that you can further go on, find out the traditional territory, and then go on that language site and listen to how it's spoken, so that you can honor saying I live, work, and play. Say if you're back east on the Haudenosaunee territory, So practice to yourself or practice to your family members or whatever, so that you can honor saying the name of the nation in a good way. And you know what? We are very, very forgiving and very, very polite, that, even if you attempt it and you cannot say it in the way that it is spoken by our people, you made that polite, respectful attempt to share it. And we honor that and feel honored that you would say thanks to our ancestors of our lands. So I hope that's helpful, Cole. OCM, thank you.
Right, Elder. Yes, very helpful. And I saw a few people in the chat sharing some really great resources. Nativeland.ca is a great resource, as well as the First Peoples Cultural Council map for territory plus language. Absolutely, I would agree. It's a really, really great resource. And I wanted to take a moment to recognize and appreciate what you said there, Elder, about kind of learning to recognize a territory and a peoples by their name. It's not difficult, and the resources exist, and really we as all people have to reach out and learn how to say the names of our territories and our people appropriately. Pay them the respect that you would in any other situation, right? So thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so we just had a big influx of questions here. I'll just give me a moment. Okay, here is an interesting question, which is from Yvonne, and she was just asking, excuse me, Elder, if you had any suggestions or ideas for gift giving to an elder, maybe something other than traditional plants or medicines. I know I spoke to an elder that I used to work with once, said that they get so much tobacco that they re-gift it to everybody all the time, because they just have pounds and pounds of tobacco at this point because of all the work they do. So the question is there something else that's maybe alternative, something special that you could give to an elder? Or what would be your recommendation? Or alternatively, if you wanted to recognize an elder in an above and beyond way, perhaps for continued work or a history of work with an organization, what would you recommend to those people?
Well, our beautiful elders would accept any gift, small or large, or, and if you know a little bit more about the elder, maybe you could give a gift basket of fruit, mixed fruit and other items that would be helpful. If you know that, like many of our elders, like how to respect the elder when we were in, what I guided in the past is when we were present, is to really honor the elder, because many of our elders live with those health conditions like diabetes, like high blood pressure and various things that would support the elder being in your presence. So what I've recommended to people is make sure there's enough refreshment, make sure that there's snacks if the elders have diabetes. And so in that journey of creating a gift basket, so perhaps honoring the elders' health conditions. If they are diabetic, don't put stuff in there that a diabetic can't have. Perhaps gifting the elder with things that would be helpful in their living life, like what is helpful, like say, in the past, if we went to visit an elder and they lived in a small place where they had a fireplace or a wood stove, you could give them a cord of wood, or useful things that would that that the elder would be grateful to receive. So it doesn't always have to be the sacred plants. You could just complement the sacred plants with any kind of gift that you feel would be beneficial to the elder. And they would never say, oh, never say that. So,
yeah.
OCM, thank you.
Thank you. I just want to take a second to recognize Valerie Joseph, Elder Valerie, who's posted in the chat that as an elder, they've been gifted beaded earrings, cedar roses, seafood, or home jarred berries as well. So just attesting again to you know to just the validity of making sure that we're giving gifts um, that are relevant and helpful. You know, or a delicacy. Quite honestly, home jarred berries. It sounds like a delicacy to me. Very good. I want to take a second as well here just to say that at the Learning Circle, our gifts, we also make a point of making sure that we're supporting local Indigenous artisans or businesses in those gifts. So if you can, make sure that you're doing so. You know, if you go out and buy, using Valerie's example here, beaded earrings, make sure that those beaded earrings come from an Indigenous artisan. Make sure those resources are going back to support the communities and engage in a reciprocal relationship in that way. So just my little Learning Circle plug there at the end. Thanks very much for your responses. Okay, I think we have time for one or two more questions. One from Roberta. Uh, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your last name. Fiorina. Roberta Fiorina asks, "Dear Elder Roberta, thank you for sharing your knowledge today. I'm from Italy, and I had the honor to get to know some artists from Vancouver and Vancouver Island for my thesis. Some of them talked to me about the curative power of art, especially ceremonial art. And so Roberta's question is, did art have a role in your experience of healing and helping other people with their healing process?"
Well, I believe, um, like I keep saying, my sister is the true artist. She sews many items for ceremony for me. And I always say, I wish I was like you. And she said, but you are. And it was my elders that actually taught me the cultural teachings that I've returned back to the community and taught in the schools for 36 years now. Those traditional cultural teachings of making your own medicine pouch. And I've learned from Elder Amy the teachings of the dream catcher. And it's very, very important not to just do the art, but actually talk about the story behind it and share that story as you're creating. So I've been led and taught about like maybe 8 or 9 cultural teachings that I share in my workshops, which is all sitting at home in bins now because I'm not able to actually go into the classrooms or go into the community or go into the circles to share that. So I'm really hoping that we come to a place of safety so I can make use of all those beautiful pieces of art and in that. So I guess not like an artist to me is someone who creates a beautiful painting or makes, weaves something or does anything. But my sister always tells me, but you are an artist. Because I keep saying, I'm not an artist, but I would say yes, because what I would do in my really sad times, feeling very sad, and I would go to my elders and I would ask a question. And I cannot believe this, but my elders, at the time, I would ask the question, and the way we were taught in that colonial way was, ask, answer. So I'd expect an answer from the elders, and what they would do is they'd tell me a story. And so I would listen, or they would say to me, if I go to ask them, come with me, Roberta, help me do this. And then they would teach me the cultural teachings. So I'd be helping them either prepare or share in the teaching. And I would ask the question again. Another story would come out. And I can't believe that I am following through my elders' footsteps today, because people will come to me and ask me a question and I'll share a story. And so I think that was a big healing journey for me because the answer to my question that I was wanting to hear from the elders actually came out within myself through those stories. And so I really hold my hands up to those beautiful elders who have role modeled, who've guided me and taught me and helped me in my healing journey. So I guess that's a long answer, Roberta, to yes, I guess art did help me in my healing journey. Oh, yeah.
I think you're an artist of the soul, Elder Roberta. That's what it is. Thank you very much. So we're at 11:15 now. Okay, we had one more question come in. It's a little bit straightforward, so maybe we'll address this one and then we'll close for the day. Elder, would you mind, or are there any small exercises you do during the day to keep yourself grounded, in amidst all these Zoom calls? Even just like is there something that you would suggest, perhaps a small breathing exercise, or is there a small prayer that you could share with us so that people could engage in that themselves, take it away? Sort of a takeaway lesson, I guess.
Well, sometimes my Zoom days would start at 7 in the morning and end at 7 at night. And one time it ended at 9:30 at night from 7 in the morning. And so in between those times, what I would do is actually go outside. Like I live, like it's the second floor that I'm on the Zoom. So I would just go outside and stand in the driveway and breathe in and out quite a bit. And then when it was so heavy during that time that we were really shut down, what I would do is after, like, it began to feel like I had a vice grip on my brain from looking at the computer and being on the computer. It felt like a vice grip. So what I would do is I would go, and then my granddaughter was able to be with me and stay longer sometimes because she didn't have school. And what we would do is we'd go for we called it walk it off. So we go for our walk at the end of the day, no matter when. She was so patient in playing and waiting for Grandma to go for that walk. And what we would do on that walk, she would play games, or she loves Blue's Clues, and then we play guessing games, and then we play I Spy. And it was so amazing because I think when it was so quiet, like in the area where I live is the highway, and it was always really, really busy before the shutdown. And then it was very quiet. And the animals came out, and we see the birds, and then we talk about the birds. And one day we saw this beautiful, big, furry coyote. And my Cheyenne, she goes, "Grandma, can I go and pet the coyote?" And I said, no, they're a wild animal. They don't know people. We can't go near them. We don't want to, make them scared, because when they get scared, they might bite. We can't go near him and pet him. But he stood there and stared at us for the longest time and then took off. And so walking it off after, and sometimes we'd be even out there for an hour and a half, just walking and while she played her games. And that was really actually helpful to Grandma to release that vice grip pressure off of my brain that I felt, and it really helped a lot. So, and then going outside and taking those breaths of air, or just standing up and you don't have to jump, but move your arms and your legs like you are doing jumping jacks. So some of us can't jump. So just moving in between those times of the Zoom meetings, and not when you have to sit for a long time, it's really wearing on your knees and your back and your hips. And so just standing up and moving your body, in that short period of time you may have. So I hope that helps.
Absolutely. So to recap then, if you got a short break, get up, move around, take your deep breaths and ground yourself. Try and get outside if you can. And then for the longer breaks, take a more involved walk around and breathe and try and connect to the territory around you, whatever that looks like. Thanks very much, Elder. I appreciate your answer.
Well, so Cole, I'm wondering if we do have a minute. I just wanted to address that healing that Roberta asked about in my journey, and share
Please.
my own experience. Like as people who do know me, or who may have this sense over our Zoom meeting, is that I'm a pretty determined woman. You know, I can get the job done. So in my journey of healing, I would set these goals for myself, you know, and I sometimes, like, I would even write them down. I'd set these goals and I think, you know, I'm going to do this and I'm going to be healed. And so I'd go through that. I'd certainly meet my goal. And in my own mind, I thought, you know, that a bolt of lightning would go across the sky, maybe the thunder would roll, and I'd get this warm, gushy feeling come over me, and I'm healed, I'm healed. I met that goal and absolutely nothing happened. And I think, whoa. So I'd sink further down into my depression, feel disappointed in myself, go through that cycle, pick myself up again, set another goal. Same thing, meet that goal no matter how long it took. Wait for that warm, gushy feeling, the thunder and lightning across the sky. Nothing happened. Over and over and over again, I did that. I don't know, I can't share a specific point in time where it came over me that healing is a journey I'll be on. Due to all the experiences I had from age 6 onwards, healing is a journey I'll be on, a very hard-working daily journey I'll be on until the Creator calls me home. And I really feel that sense of, like, it is like you try and try and try, and then you realize that you just come to a point of acceptance about where you're at in that time, and that point of acceptance actually gives you more strength and spurs you on to do the work even further. So I just wanted to share that with everyone. And
absolutely. Yeah, thank you very much, Elder. I appreciate that. Healing is a journey, and I agree with you. I think that as soon as you start kind of setting these goals to hit, and then all of a sudden it'll be done, that it's a task to check off.
Yes.
You're far off of the mark. You know, you'll always be trying to get that next thing, and it's tiring in its own way. So at 11:21, I think we've officially run out of time here. I'm just going to take a few minutes and say thank you very much to everybody that joined us today. At the Learning Circle, we'll have a couple more events before the winter break, one of which being we're going to welcome the Doula Collective back to chat with us about Indigenous doula practices and supporting Indigenous birth during the pandemic. What does that look like for them? And then later on this week, we're going to have Priscilla Setti join us. She's going to chat about Indigenous worldviews, climate change, the impacts of climate change on northern rural trappers. So we're really excited about that conversation as well, to bring that lens to our circle. I wanted to end today for me by saying, by reflecting on an answer that you gave earlier, Elder, which was that, you know, around kind of coming to be an elder and what that meant, and that in our continuum, you know, that we had a continuum of learning before, you know, before contact, before when our communities were strong, before residential schools and all these colonial acts, that one became an elder through the course of mentorship and guidance throughout their lives, and that continuum of support and education and learning was disrupted by colonial acts. And so the elders we have today, you know, people like yourself, Elder Roberta, doing fantastic work that have been upheld or sort of held up by their communities and appointed in that way to do this work is so critical. But I wanted to take a moment and say that I think with the work that you're doing, we're moving back to that space where we as people and as communities can again start to see that continuum of knowledge and guidance. It's through that work that you and all the elders that you work with are doing. So I just wanted to take a second to recognize that before we head off. Thank you very much, Elder. I really appreciate our time that we spent together, even digitally.
OCM, OCM, thank you, Cole. Thank you, everyone. And I just want to leave you with that, as taught to me by my elders, that not all old people are elders, and not all elders are old people. So that's been guided to me by my teaching elders, and always like mentoring others to become involved. And many of the elders that I brought into our elder circle at Vancouver Coastal Health here, when they were recommended by someone, was somebody recommending someone, and then they come and do an initial meeting with me over tea or coffee, and we chat, and they'd say, I don't think I'm an elder. And then I would say, well, why don't you come in and join our circle? And then so many of those stories came out from our beautiful sister and brother elders about what they remembered, about what their great grandma taught them, or what their great grandpa taught them, or what their grandma and grandpa taught them. And then it was lost in the memory of surviving in this world. And so they acknowledge in the circle to themselves by sharing their experiences. That's what Elder Roberta meant when I wanted you to come and join the circle. So sometimes, like, we feel like I felt at first, inadequate to be in the role that the community calls us to be in. So I say I want to lift some of our folks up out there that are being called within their communities or within the circles that they're in to embrace it and share your gratefulness to the Creator and our ancestors. OCM, thank you so much. Thank you, Cole. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for everyone behind the scenes that are supporting this Zoom circle. And thank you to all the beautiful little ones that have been probably listening a little bit and maybe doing other things. And I'm really glad that our people of all ages are being involved in this time together today. OCM, OCM.
Thanks, everyone. Till next time.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. OCM, OCM.